Hey guys, been looking at YouTube and trying to find a video just to explain sort of how to set up UIs and how to start up your arena career. Now, PvP is pretty intense. There's a lot of things that you have to learn, a lot of things to focus on, but this video will probably just be more so on how to create a UI, how to use certain add-ons to make your life a lot easier. Now, okay, first, these are all the add-ons that I use. We've got sort of the ones that are more important for me: bind pad, plate buffs, S arena, diminish. These ones I pretty much can't live without. Another one is pretty good as well is big debuffs. And for rogues, I use Nug Energy and simple combo points. Weak auras is also another luxury add-on that you can use that you can sort of make your life easier. First and foremost, let's look at bind pad. To do that, you command /BP. /BP will open up your bind pad profile. Bind pad's an add-on that creates a lot of additional macro spaces that you can bind anything to. You can have them general, so that's all throughout all your characters on your account, or you can have specific that would just be for your current character that you are playing. As you can see here, I've got quite a few macros that I've set up. You can actually streamline these. Most of these you can streamline to one. That's a little bit more advanced, but I use them just 1, 2, 3 to make it a lot easier to coordinate. Now, bind pad, how you create a macro, you just click here, put in your macro name, and type macro here. Blah 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 blah. I will have a segment later on about how to create some macros, but just want to show you guys how macros are created in bind pad itself. Once you create it, it's really easy to keybind it. You just left click on it and it gives you a keybind that you can keybind it to whatever you want. Right click to edit it. You can delete it, you can edit it, whatever you want. That is bind pad. Now, as a rogue, what I do use is simple combo points and Nug Energy. So as you can see here, this is simple combo points. Just shows you what combos you have. The one below is Nug Energy. Sort of a luxury for me because personally I can't be bothered looking up here. I like to focus everything in sort of a heads-up display right in front of me. That is Nug Energy. Nug Energy and simple combo points. Pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go further on about that. S arena. Some people like Gladius. I personally hate it. I prefer S arena because it's sort of default. As you can see with my UI, it's fairly default on most things. Now, S arena, what this does is it makes your default arena frames sizable. You can make them as big as you want. It's actually a script to do that in game, but I can't be bothered using scripts, so I just use S arena just to make my life easier. What it also does is it gives you a trinket tracker. These are all the trinkets. So when someone trinkets, you can see, and there's a timer on it. You can actually make them bigger and smaller if you want. S arena, these are your options. You can make them bigger, scale, cast bar, scale, health, whatever, blah blah blah. I use big debuff, so I don't have an aura watch on, otherwise it just doubles up and it looks a bit messy, so I turn off aura watch. Aura watch is pretty good if you don't have something like lose control, which is now obsolete because it hasn't been updated, or big debuffs. As you can see, you can make them all bigger. That is S arena. What works really nicely with S arena that's not built in, but it is with Gladius, is your diminishing returns tracker. I use something called diminish, and I don't think it has, there you go, it's not really customizable, but it's already pretty much done in terms of default. brings up all these DRs up here. As you can see, if it's red, that means they're immune. If it's white, it'll be half. If it's yellow, it will be a quarter. So I can bring them up again, diminish. There you go. Yellow is half, white is, so yellow is a quarter, white's half, red is immune. So if you don't see any of these things here, and let's say you are a rogue and you want to blind, there's no fear DRs or there's no cyclone DRs, then nothing will be shown here. That means your blind will be a full blind. And as a rogue, you definitely want to watch out for that, because unless you're all in SUVs to try to kill something, you don't want to half blind someone. You would want to pretty much always try to have a full blind, situationally maybe half blind, just to make sure you get a kill. That is S Arena and Diminish. Pretty standard stuff, and pretty easy to manipulate. Another one that I use is Move Anything. Again, it does what the name tells you. You can move anything you want around your screen. I don't use this for much, to be honest. Certain class specific stuff, like the stance bars and stuff like that, sometimes it gets in the way. I just move it around. That's sort of a luxury. Plate buffs. I personally can't live without plate buffs. You can actually see, oh wait, it doesn't show up on target dummies, brilliant. But in arenas, when you have stuff like you want to see the Ret Pallies pop wings or the warriors pop recklessness, it will show up really nicely on top of their plates. Actually, you can actually see it here on this Dungeons training dummy that there is some deadly poison stacks and whatnot. That is plate buffs for you. To access it, /PB, this brings this up, and you can actually add spells, delete spells. You can have them bigger, have them smaller. Let's see, blind. I have my blind quite big so I can also see, even though it shows up on my arena frames, but it's always handy to see certain things. I used this a lot back in the day when I was still learning how to arena, just to make sure that I don't kick into something like Devotion Aura or Aura Mastery. Where is it? Devotion Aura, there you go. It was pretty important because I couldn't really see it in the default frames because I suck, and I had it quite big, and it shows up on the nameplates. I don't actually look at my own health up here. I look at my party frames, which will show up later on for my HP, and I look at the nameplates for enemy HPs and for their cooldowns. That is plate buffs, and pretty easy to go and to set up. It's play around with it. It's generally quite self-explanatory, to be very frank. Another one that I use is weak auras. Weak auras is like the old power auras back in the day. That wasn't updated, or it might have been updated, I'm not so sure, but weak auras is sort of a luxury. I like it just to track certain things. Now what I have it tracking is, when I was combat, it'll track my insight buffs, and what I also have it tracking is my feint. So every time I feint, this thing shows up. So if this thing's not up, that means I know that my feint is not up. So as long as I keep this up, I'll be always taking 30% less damage unless I get CC'd with a full stun or something like that. Another thing that it does track is your procs. Like right here, I have a proc, my Mark of Bleeding Hollow proc, so it shows up there very nicely. What else you could do is have it track your subtlety, subterfuge timer. I have that there as well. That is weak auras. To create it, it's actually a little bit more complicated. That takes a little bit of time to go and set up and play around with, but play around with it. It takes a little bit of time to learn it, but once you learn it, you can have it track anything. I'll show you the feint one that I have. I created a texture. You can have an icon, you can have textures, you can have bars. It's up to you. What this one's a texture, and you can actually choose whatever textures you want. I have that one because I quite like it. Load, player class, rogue, and the trigger is an aura. So what it does is that you put the aura name there, faint, and have that match. It is a buff, and it's a player buff. That means player is yourself, not enemy. And as long as the mod is having a look at your own auras, what it'll do is it'll track your own auras, and it specifically tracks faint. Whenever you have faint up, then it will show up. Once faint goes off, it will drop off. That is weak auras. Big debuffs. Big debuffs is another add-on that I use, which is pretty handy to help with checking if your healer CC'd or if your party CC'd or whatnot. I have my party frames over here, and there's actually a macro that I will link in the description that always makes you on the lowest tier. Let me get someone in my party in a sec, and I will show you that. But basically this macro, I'll show you right here, is a script that you always have to hit every time you load in, and that generally that will always put you in the party on below. I will explain this in a little bit of detail shortly. Sorry guys, I'm back. Just trying to get someone in the group so I can show you the big debuffs a little bit easier. So I have someone in the group. Now I was talking about a macro, which I will link in the description to put you down below. As you see, I just invited this person, although it's offline, puts me up top, which sometimes, depending on who loads into an arena first, it's not ideal, and you want to have your big debuffs showing the right person, tracking the right people, sorry. So let's just go into big debuffs right now. What I've done is I've just disabled the raid frames. You don't want like AV to show 16 million debuffs and whatnot, so excuse me. I just disabled the raid frames. On my unit frames, the party frames, what I've actually done is I've set them to a manual anchor. That way when I toggle the test mode, I can put them whenever. Now I generally do 2s and 3s, so I don't really bother about 5s. Party 1, party 2, party 3, party 4. There's no party 5 because you are a member. What I have actually done is put that party 1 up top, party 2 down here. Now, this is your default Blizzard UI that you can go and create. This is how I've done it. On standard, I think it doesn't show class colors and it's got a border, so I've disabled these two, I've made them bigger and just moved them across. Now the reason why it's still up top is because I haven't hit my macro. Now here I have my macro set up. If I hit it, and when you load into an arena, or you can just basically toggle this, you will then, ta-da, you are down below. Now the reason why this is showing party 2 is because I've got 2 people. When it's 3v3, I will always be down below and party 2 will be middle, party 1 will be up top. So then that way your big debuffs are set up in a way where it will definitely show the right target. So let's say this person, I changed my UI, is say your healer, and he gets full feared. You then can realize, okay, perhaps if he has no trinket, I've got to play a little bit more defensive, or I've got to interrupt. If he gets deep freezed, you generally know that, okay, the mage is going to be following that with a polymorph, so you want to get in a position where you can save your teammate by kicking the polymorph or stopping the polymorph somehow or some way. This is just a little bit of a luxury. It shows up down here as well, but I personally am not good enough to be able to track it just from the regular buffs and debuffs from the Blizzard UI, so I have something bigger because I suck again, just so that it makes it easier for me to see. This is even better if you are a healer and you'll need to dispel your arena mates from CC. If this player is cheaped, then you can immediately see that and immediately dispel that. So then again, that is big debuffs. Let me just turn these off. Oh, sorry, one last thing about big debuffs. In order to have your own player frame on the bottom, you need to uncheck keep groups together and sort by groups. I think default is either checked and sort by role or something like that. It has to be sorted by groups, just to let you guys know that. Okay, let me turn off big debuffs, the toggle the test mode. Well, sorry, one last thing, if you go to your spells, what I have set my one up is crowd control priority, crowd control 100%, so it will always show crowd control above everything else. You can actually play a lot with this. You know when your teammate has like faint up, or your teammate has icy veins, so he's bursting or whatnot. You can actually set it up, you can play with it, visibility, custom priority, blah blah blah, size, so you can actually just play around with that. I have it pretty much standard, except I've taken off a few things that I don't really want to track. That's up to you again. It's personal preference on what you want to track and what you don't want to track, but I definitely recommend that if you're using the mod, have the crowd control priority at 100%. So that is the base rundown of my my add-ons. Now moving on to the next part, which is macros. Macros is something that when you first start out using it, you might be overcome by the complexity of it, but I like to think of macros as making it as simple as you want. Something like this blows my mind, so I've just copy pasted that from someone who was nice enough to link it to me on Twitch, and I've just copy pasted that. These are some of the macros that I use. The rest are all in BindPad. I will go through my BindPad macros later on, but these are the basic macros for kick and focus kick, gouge, focus gouge, cheap shot, and focus cheap shot. Now again, it is quite simple to go and create these macros. I can put one link of this in the description, and you can just copy this and alter it to whatever you want. So basically, you've already copied it. Let's say you are a mage, counter spell. So copy paste, put that in, show tooltip, counterspell again, and counterspell. How this macro works is that whatever you bind this to, it will, when you hit it, it will counterspell your target. If you shift hit it, it will focus counterspell, providing you have a focus. So my cheap shot is E. My focus cheap shot will be shift E. So this is how we do it. Let's say we make this our focus. We do that by creating a macro, or you can actually put that in the default UI under targeting, focus. There's one that actually is focus target somewhere around here. Focus target. I actually have that set up as a macro here in my BindPad. Focus, and then when I shift click it, it is clear focus. So what I can do, I click this, have this targeted, I hit my macro to set my focus, or I can clear it. So here I've set my focus as the triangle. So that is my focus. I am hitting this guy. So I am currently lagging. Great. Sorry guys, had a bit of a lag spike. So as I was saying, the triangle is your target. So let's go into stealth. What we want to do is focus cheap shot. Let's say if this was a warrior and you want to kill the shaman. So I want to cheap shot the warrior just for appeal, and then go onto my target. I don't want to manually target these two because it could potentially be too slow. So E is my cheap shot, shift E is my focus. So what I'll do is I'll run across here, focus cheap shot with shift E, then E to cheap shot this guy. Now this will work with all other macros that you have. I have it for gouge, I have it for kick, I have it for blind. It's the same macro for all of them, it's just the name is just changed. So what I've actually done is have all my binds set up. You can see here V would be blind, so my focus blind is shift V. So if I hit shift V right now, that guy has been blinded. It will be the same for my kick. My kick is actually R, so my focus kick, run here, shift R, that has just kicked that guy. Now, same you can create macros for everything. I actually don't have shift 3. Shift 3 is actually my envenom. So I've bound my focus kidney shot to a different bind. For me, that's Alt F. It might seem a little bit stupid, but I'm just used to having it there. Let me see if I can actually find it. It's somewhere here. Anyway, it is somewhere. There you go. That is just a regular focus macro. Target equals focus, kidney shot. And you can see that's bound to Alt F. So now I want to focus kidney shot this guy. I run across, Alt F. There you go. That's a kidney shot onto your focus, and you're still targeting your main kill target. Those are your focus macros. You can make them with anything. That's a focus gouge, focus kick, focus blind. If you're running Shadowstep, you can actually have that as Shadowstep kick. This is my Shadowstep kick macro, which you can just copy and paste if you like. It's just target, focus, Shadowstep, kick. That's just bound to Shift Q. Those are your focus macros. Focus sap, blah blah blah. Unlimited potential with what you want to do. You can focus anything. You can make focus macros for everything and anything you want, really. I've got even a focus shift macro, which actually helps from time to time for slowing down melee to peel for your healer. Those are focus macros. Furthermore to focus macros, you can have arena 1, 2, 3 macros. Now these macros just make your life in arena a lot easier. I actually had them all set up in my bind pad. As you can see, you can blind 1, blind 2, blind 3. If I bring up S Arena right now, you can actually see, if I toggle test mode, this is your S Arena, your Gladius, or even your default unit frames will have something like this around here in your top right hand corner. If you go into an arena, the person up top is always Arena 1, middle, Arena 2, Arena 3, Arena 4, Arena 5, etc. So I have it set up that my blind, if I want to blind this person and he's not on focus, you can actually create that macro to blind 1, 2, and 3. Now personally, I use this a lot on my mage for sheeps and whatnot instead of changing targets, changing focus. But on my rogue, I generally don't use 1, 2, 3 for much, except for potentially kicking, because let's say there are two casters right next to each other and I have the healer, which is fucked off somewhere around here, focus so that I can shadow step kick him. But let's say this guy is casting a polymorph on my healer, and I desperately want to kick him. Instead of targeting him, if he's Arena 2, then I just kick Arena 2, which for me, I use a Razor Naga. Actually, wait, kick Arena 2 is Alt 2. There you go. Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3. Again, these binds are my personal preference. You can use whatever you want and be comfortable with your own binds. These are Arena 1, 2, 3 macros. The minimum that I do suggest is focus 1, 2, 3, which you can actually now keybind directly through your keybind screen. In your targeting, you can focus focus Arena 1, focus Arena 2, focus Arena 3, all the way to 5, and target Arena 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had these macros back before they put that into the key binding system, so I have them target Arena 1, 2, 3, and focus 1, 2, 3. Focus, I have it F1, F2, F3, and targeting, I use my mouse scroll, so that way I don't have to physically go and click on people to target them. Let's say we want a hard swap onto a rogue with no feint up, and he's Arena 3. I know I had to shift mouse wheel up and I hit Arena 3 straight up. I don't have to click on him. I don't have to do whatever. That is basically Arena 1, 2, 3 macros. I want to really quickly touch on the S Arena or Gladius or default. When we're talking about 1, 2, 3 macros, it is very important that you have something like this or Gladius set up in a way where you can actually see what is being cast by the opponent. So if you're a healer and you're pillar humping out of line of sight and you see a mage casting polymorph, chances are he's going to be polymorphing one of your teammates. So you can position yourself in a way where you can easily dispel as soon as he casts, or if you're a mage and you see him casting a polymorph and you know that that's going to be a game-breaking polymorph that you desperately want to kick, then you can just kick it. It's quite important you have this set up in a way where it's visible to you and it is convenient for you to see and react appropriately. Those are your Arena 1, 2, 3 macros that you can have set up. If you want to have more in-depth macro information, there's a plethora of information out on Skillcapped, on Arena Junkies, even on PvE forums, because PvEers also do use focus macros. Now, I do want to touch on one thing, that add-ons, macros and UIs, they're all personal tastes. They are by no means what you definitely need to enjoy or to play your game, but this is what I require to make my life in World of Warcraft PvP a lot easier. Some people actually play without mods at all and add-ons at all, and I give them great respect, because I'm just not good enough to play at that level where they're not playing with any add-ons and they use macros and scripts in lieu of add-ons. Examples of this would be like the BlizzCon championships, and any major tournaments won't actually allow you to have add-ons. You need to play with default UI. Some people have space age UIs, which I used to have when I was raiding, and they have, you know, things like Spartan unit frames, Xpearl, Pitbull, Elv UI, all of these things that make your unit frames all look nice and pretty, and I just got over that, and I think the default unit frames is good enough now, especially after the improvements that Blizzard's done to it, and with a few little tweaks here and there, it works for me. Some people insist on having their own unit frames, and more power to you. Get to a place where you are comfortable with your unit frames and you are able to see all the necessary information, like when your healer's in a CC or when your teammate's in a CC, you want to dispel them, you need to play defensive, etc. What I don't advocate is copying keybinds and macros from someone 100%. As especially keybinds, they are personal preference. As I said, my cheap shot is E, but if your E is, let's say, in Venom, go for it. Don't copy everyone's keybinds, because some people have very weird keybinds, some people have keybinds that you are generally just not used to. Go with something that you are comfortable with and get used to that. It's more important that you get used to it and it works for you, as opposed to relearning your whole keybinds. That could take extremely long time, and you potentially could not have a very fun time with that. On the other hand, let's say if your big cooldowns, like as a rogue, your Vanish, or like if you're a Pally, your Bubble, if that is on, let's say, Alt Control N or something completely out of the way and not convenient, I think it would be a good idea to rebind those big cooldowns to a place where potentially it's more accessible, and you can hit them with more consistency and be more reliable on them. At the same time, you don't want your big cooldowns in a place where you can accidentally fat finger or misclick them. Or you don't want to be bubbling in the starting room instead of mounting or something like that. If, like, let's say 1 is your mount and the little squiggle is your bubble, and yeah, you just find a spot for your keybinds where you're not going to be fat fingering a lot of things, and you get comfortable and get used to them. Lastly, what I definitely suggest is to get a UI and your keybinds set up in a way that you are used to. I've got a friend that changes his binds and his UI like every 2 hours or something like that, and I reckon that could potentially lead to you not getting used to it and not actually streamlining your play to an optimal level. Have a clean setup, make the necessary macros, and get comfortable with your binds. Have fun, guys. Cheers.